Hello and welcome to Convinced Catholicism, a place for all things Catholic. Today it's not a review. I've already reviewed this book if you want to check it out, the Angelus Press Roman Catholic Daily Missal, but I figured this would be kind of a first maybe in a series talking about the Latin Mass, because as controversial as it is, I do think it has a place within the church. I know it has a place within the church, and even though it's not my typical attendance, I do enjoy it, and I do go when I do feel like going. I'm blessed to have one like 10 minutes away from me, 15 minutes away, right? And so this video is going to be about how I use the Missal. This is not necessarily how you might use it or how someone else might use it. This is not even the best way to use it. I am just expressing how I use it in order to maybe be a guide to those who are interested in attending for the first time. And I have some advice for those who are considering attending for the first time. So stick around for that, right? So first of all, Missal's colors, the ribbons at least, have no meaning, right? We tend to think of green as the time after Pentecost or ordinary time, black for funerals, white for Christmas and Easter, red for Pentecost, purple for Lent. That has no meaning in this Missal, in the Angelus Press Missal, or the Baronius, or the, as far as I know, the Licence. Though I do think maybe the Licence tells you to put certain ribbons in certain places. But anyway, let's get started, right? So first of all, we see here that there are different prayers for different occasions here, right? I would say you're better off using another book for many of the prayers here, such as Vespers or an order for morning prayer or devotions or whatever else. You're better off using another book for that. I would use my first ribbon for the propers for the Sundays. And what are the propers? They are the prayers that are specific to the Mass being prayed on that Sunday. So, for example, the next one at the time of recording would be the 14th Sunday after Pentecost. We see here that the priest should be wearing green vestments. We have the Introit, the Collect, the Epistle, the Gradual Alleluia Gospel, and so on and so forth. Offertory, Secret, Communion, Post-Communion, and then Vespers, if they're going to be said after Mass by the priest in public, right? So I usually put my first ribbon, right? I'm going to refer to them in order rather than the color, because this is applicable to any Missal. I would put my first ribbon or a ribbon for the propers here. Okay. Now, this next ribbon, this starts with the Aspergis and Vidi Aquam. Okay, this will not move. Okay, so whatever ribbon this is for you in your book, do not move this, at least if you're going to be following my method. Preparation for Holy Mass, that's really just for the priest. I would say this is not really applicable to somebody unless if they are really committed to going early to Mass. But most places that do offer the Latin Mass, most places that do offer the Latin Mass will start with the Asperges or the Vidi Aquam. So the Asperges May is the rite of sprinkling before, this is technically before the Mass, okay? And then for the Easter season, it would be the Vidi Aquam, okay? So Vidi Aquam would be here. And this is done for the Easter season. Now, the next ribbon is one that will move with you. And typically, I would have this outside the book, right? So first ribbon would be placed on whatever Sunday Mass you're attending. And you can figure that out through the internet or the bulletin. Depending on how resource savvy you are, you might just want to look up Latin Mass calendar, and the website for the Seminary of Our Lady of Guadalupe will have that calendar available for you. Then, but this ribbon, you might want to take it into the church out, or at least maybe starting with the Mass of the Catechumens. This is where the actual Mass starts. Okay, and I'll warn you, if you're considering going to the Latin Mass for the first time, chances of you hearing anything is very slim, especially if you're sitting in the middle of the back of the church. You will not be hearing any of this. You might be hearing at most murmuring or the sound of whispers, that pss, pss, pss sound. Okay, the concept of participating in a Mass for the lay faithful was to offer their own prayers in their minds and hearts to be sent up to the altar, kind of almost via the altar servers. The altar servers will be doing the responses, as would be the choir, to the priest. So the dialogue between priest and people, mostly, for the most part, will be between altar servers and choir as the people, and the priest would be sending those offerings up to God. There are some prayers that will be said by the lay faithful. Most specifically, the Domine nosum dignus, or in English, Lord, I'm not worthy that you should enter under my roof, but only say the word and my soul shall be healed. So, back to the ribbon, right? So this other ribbon, or this third ribbon, ribbon number 3, should only be placed down for the thing that, if maybe you want to close your book and pay attention to what the priest is saying, or maybe the homily is going on, or maybe communion is going on and you want to put your missal down, you don't want to bring it up to the rail to receive, that is when you would put the ribbon down. Or maybe you wanted to flip to the propers of the Mass, right? So for example, and this one's nice because it says when to go to the propers. Now here's the thing. If there is a choir chanting or singing during the Latin Mass, you will hear everything that the priest says. Well, or at least most of it. So for example, as the priest is kind of whispering this stuff with the altar servers in the Mass of the Catechumens, you will be hearing, just one second, right? While the priest is whispering this stuff, the choir is chanting the introit. And then you will hear the priest say the collect and the epistle and things like that. But the gradual and the Alleluia, you'll hear the choir chanting. So if you can go to one that has a chanted Mass, go to that one. That way you'll know what's going on. Secret, offertory, so on and so forth. Those things you will be hearing the choir saying at some point. And then you'll also hear the Kyrie eleison, and then at some point later you'll hear the priest and the servers Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison, Christe eleison, and so on. But typically you'll be hearing the choir chanting that. Okay, so maybe it's a good idea, if you are going to place this ribbon down at any point, maybe it would be at the credo, because that's right after the homily, or it might be at the Mass of the Catechumens, which is basically like the Eucharistic section of the Mass, or the second part of the Mass, which is the Mass of the Catechumens, I believe. It's going to be labeled here somewhere. Mass of the Faithful. And then the first part would be the Mass of the Catechumens. My apologies. but yeah, Mass of the Catechumens, and then Mass of the Faithful. Maybe you would want to put your ribbon here because this is where the everything's important, but this is where the communion prayers are going on. Fourth ribbon. This is where I would put the feasts of the day. Now, chances are you will not be attending many of these masses, or at least I would not be. I try to go to daily mass, but the way that my life is going right now, how busy it is, this is essentially impossible. They don't have a Latin Mass in my area for daily Mass. The daily Mass in my area is at 12:15. And it's Novus Ordo, which there's nothing wrong with the Novus Ordo, but if I were to do anything, I would read the readings on the internet or in my Magnificat magazine. What will be important, though, is if there are principal feasts, these are where they come from. So, for example, one major one that's coming up, the Feast of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, okay? Or another one might be, or one that just happened, right, would be the Assumption, right? That's a holy day of obligation, after all. Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary. This is where you would find the important stuff. Then lastly, and I mentioned that devotions and morning and evening prayer really should be done in another book. That's my honest opinion. This offers a brief morning and evening prayer rule. This offers different devotions, but honestly, maybe you want to find another book for that, because this primary purpose is to be a missal. This, however, is important. The Eucharistic adoration. This is just one example of the things that you could be doing for adoration. Prayers to the Blessed Sacrament here. There's also in the table of contents, let's see, exposition and benediction. Masses very often are followed immediately after exposition and benediction. So if we want to go to 118, here we have exposition and benediction of the Blessed Sacrament. So you might want to put a prayer card here, or you might want to put, this might be your first ribbon, but I tried to make it in the order of a Sunday Mass, and what might, honestly, maybe that should have been in the back, because that usually follows Mass, right? But anyway, this is kind of maybe a first in a series about a guide to the Latin Mass, but this is how I use the Missal when I'm at Latin Mass. You might use it a different way. You might use it the same way I do. And if you're new to the Latin Mass, maybe this might help you out. I would recommend your first Mass, go with someone who knows what they're doing if you do know that type of person. The little red book that many parishes have are more confusing than anything. So, and it might be a hefty chunk of change to buy this, but I would say first Mass, go with somebody who knows. Watch YouTube videos of the Latin Mass. Maybe print out the propers online. And then, and this is a worthwhile investment, if you've saved your money, get a Missal. It doesn't have to be this one, but that's just my opinion. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Take care, and God bless.